Okay, apparently I've now got it in AF mode, autofocus mode or something. So let's just give it a bit of a test. Does it focus on there, and can we get a... Does it now focus on that, and can we get a good screenshot like that? Okay, same with this. Just get it in case we didn't get it beforehand. And you wanna, I can at least get some nice screenshots. Okay, like that, and maybe a close up or something like that. Now, this one here, we got the cobalt in there. I don't know if I can just put it like there. The cobalt going out there. Certain quantity of cobalt. Whether there's also a relationship with cobalt and phosphorus as well, I don't know. We'll see. But the thing is, cobalt seems to be more toxic and deadly than copper, and it's very strange because cobalt is an important element in legumes. They need the cobalt as a cofactor in an enzyme, coenzyme sort of thing, to make a catalyst, so they can actually fix nitrogen from the atmosphere sort of thing. And therefore, does that explain why you don't find too many legumes in bog situations? I don't know, because we're going to see. Anyway, we get another one. Oh, I better do this again as well, because okay, let's see if that reacts. Now this should be. Now I don't know whether I should put it this way around or that way around. We pour in the. Hopefully, you should get a reaction with this one as well. Oh, if we don't get a reaction with this, we'll we're back to, oh, this is interesting. Oh yes, this is very interesting, fellas. Now the other thing is about the colours is like Drosera gigantea. Some CPs can take on glaucous appearances at certain areas, certain times of the year, and then also some of the large members like Drosera gigantea, the largest, or more, I should say, the most robust sundew in the world, is almost glaucous all the way up the whole plant, and it grows the size, up to the shoulder height of a 9-year-old child when growing on deep sand. And also, what's unusual, it's the only known, I think it's tuberous rheophyte or just Drosera rheophyte, or plant that likes to grow partly submerged for most of its season, sort of thing. So I've done it again, haven't I? Filled it up when I should be shaking it backwards and forwards. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, look at that. That colour there is almost a bit like your nickel sulfate colour in a way. Could be very confusing. Remember I said there's a relationship between colour and valency and the elements as well. So you can replace one element with another if you can make the same sort of valence sort of pattern and spatial arrangement sort of thing. You can fill gaps in coenzymes and things like that with other elements and things like that. So this could be very interesting with this colour. Oh, we notice now it's changing to this colour, which is almost like the look of iron hydroxide. And we know that iron hydroxide, well, iron can react with ammonia to form iron hydroxide. In other words, it's reacting with nitrogen in a way. It's a nitrogen fixer in a way. There's only, they say in all the books, there's only a handful of about 5 elements on the periodic table that can naturally react with nitrogen from the atmosphere. So do you know what those 5 elements, or roughly 5 elements, are? There's molybdenum, of course. There's copper. There's obviously cobalt. And can you name the other few that are there? That's maybe some of you major thunkers would want to do some research on there, on veritasium and a few other things, and I found out today and things like that. So you might want to do that. So there we go. That's very interesting. So we have a link to the colour between nitrogen and even iron in a way. So it may be interesting. So what other transition elements can do a similar reaction like this? Now the question is, if this is worse than copper, is it because, this one, it just puts up a little bit of gas, this one is absolutely dead, is that what it is? That's why this one is even more deadly than that. It just, once this gets into the environment, it's absolutely no good for creating reductive flammable gas. Or is it the fact that it's hard to get out of the environment? That's another question. So that's could answer some of the serpentine problem or phenomenon they call about it. There's about 5 different reasons they talk about in the books about why plants are stunted and things like that. Oh, the other thing is, what about the colour of our plants? Is with CPs they have that sort of like yellow, green sort of thing. Well, you see, copper is used in the enzyme that actually puts that makes the iron enzyme that actually puts the magnesium into the centre of the chlorophyll molecule. So if you don't have the copper, you can't do the iron, and therefore you can't end up, you get lower amounts of chlorophyll. Of course, you could probably have plants that use alternates and things like that. So it's not just dead simple as just saying, well, because they don't like, they don't like copper, or can't you have copper in the environment, blah blah blah. They can't make the chlorophyll sort of thing, because it's not quite that simple. Because what is the major element in peat? What's the major micronutrient in peat? And of course, it's copper. So so therefore, hopefully, now the other thing, we're going to put these in the sun. Now this gets back to our greenhouses and our plastics. Greenhouses and warm environment. If you do your research now online on YouTube, most of these plastics that do this strange phenomenon are absorbing in the 270 nanometer range. There's like a spike, and that's in the far infrared sort of thing, in the heat sort of. So basically they turn heat, they use the heat as an energy source, and they can apparently break the water bond and things like that, and do a few other things. And they can actually create energy. You can actually make a battery out of some of these things. So so we'll see what can be. But the 270 nanometer is the heat end of the thing, and also it's the red end of the thing. Now remember, I said with the SOLARWEAVE problem, we noticed when Donnie suddenly switched over from SOLARWEAVE to the normal polythene, the cheaper, thinner polythene that everyone thought was going to break up within a year, and we found it lasted 3.5 years. So you could have it on your greenhouse for 3 whole years before you had to buy a new sheet. It was a lot cheaper, and also we found that the SOLARWEAVE SOLARGROW stuff, it reflected in the red and the green. Green wasn't so bad because plants don't use green, that's why they are green. But the red was a bit of a problem. But now we know this. Do you see the red and the far infrared? Maybe it was keeping the far infrared out of your greenhouses, so you couldn't get this reaction to happen in your pots. So you couldn't get the reductive flammable gas being produced when the sunlight was shining. When the sunlight was shining, everyone talks about carnivorous plant needing lots of light, lots of light. I think what they really need is lots of warmth, or the far infrared, the 270 nanometer. Have you noticed also online, lots of people are starting to use these new LEDs in various arrangements. Lots of plants under this sort of pinky purple, sort of violety reddy sort of. Do you see? Maybe they're getting great growth response. It's not the light, it's the actual heat that they're putting into their and you notice all their sort of so-called perlite in quotes. To me, it doesn't quite look like perlite. Is it polystyrene, or are they using something like polystyrene? Is it some of these new sintered sand glass things? Do they also do it? Is that the connection to why it's always 50-50 peat and sand? You've got to have the sand there, because it's the sand, the reductive flammable gas generator. It just doesn't do it as well as polystyrene. I don't know. Maybe there's some other plastics out there that do it better than polystyrene, because the bloke online does talk about some acrylics and things like that. Now, why don't we get some acrylic wall, or some other, we'll try acrylic wall, and various things. Now, cotton is a good one too. We could try that, because cotton is one of these natural fibres with a gamma bond, and therefore when it's 80% or more saturated, in other words, when it's underwater, it does not rot. So it doesn't rot, so it doesn't decompose. So basically it's almost like peat in a way. You can sit there for years and you hardly lose any of it when it's underwater. But when it's underwater with sunlight and warmth on it, maybe it generates a reductive. Because when I first germinated my first Dioneer seedling from my own seeds back in WA, what did I germinate it on? I germinated on a little cap like this with some cotton wool on it. I had 2 little Venus flytrap seedlings growing on cotton wool. I also had 2 peanut plants outside by the back door, by the toilet. And what does the toilet generate? Well, we think it generates methane, but maybe it also generates methane, reductive flammable gas, and maybe even acetylene or something like that, because you do get acetylene coming off of granites. So, I mean, acetylene is a flammable, very powerful gas, lots of energy in it, but is it also a reductive gas or an oxidizing gas? It's involved in an oxidative reaction, very explosive oxidative reaction, but you can baffle it, I suppose. So why doesn't this explode? Because it's a baffle. The polystyrene is a baffle. It's like a silencer on a gun. It's self-baffling. So you may try to get... You can't get it to burn because there's just not enough gas in a certain area to actually ignite it. Anyway, hopefully you found this video interesting. I'll see if I can make some more interesting ones, but we're going to put these out in the sun and we might get a few surprises. We might get a few bubbles coming off of that. We may be totally wrong about this concept, or we might find that, you know, neither of them. And maybe this one is the worst, or somebody will notice something. Maybe this is really bad, but we get a few things growing in that one. This one is so bad, nothing grows in it or something. No bubbles, no nothing. I don't know. But it's an interesting side with that you don't have too many legumes growing in boggy situations, but you do have the bog bean. I mean, there's all these inconsistencies with carnivorous plants, you know. They say one thing and, you know, oh, they don't like copper, but what's the highest micronutrient element in peat? It's copper. It's just sort of, it's very counterintuitive, isn't it? Anyway, over and out for now. I think this has gone on too long, but hopefully you found it quite interesting. It's my Christmas special. It's one of my Christmas specials, Ringo. Okay, over and out. See ya for 2016.